IBM's Ginni Rometty joins us right now. And Ginni, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Becky.
You know, you're just off the stage where you were addressing some pretty big issues. Obviously, technology companies have come under pressure, both here and around the globe, for privacy concerns. What's IBM's solution to that problem?
Yeah, I did. And in fact, I got a chance to cover what I think were three important topics. You mentioned the one in the introduction, because we made an announcement not only about what we do with AI for business, which is going outstanding here in France, but it was something called Call for Code with the UN and the Red Cross in a donation of $30 million over a number of years. We're working on natural disasters, one thing. But the second thing then I dealt with was, that's great, you can have all this wonderful impact, but we have to have trust in technology. And our answer to that, and it's something we're sharing with the world, it's honestly, Becky, what we've lived by for decades, but we codified it now, put it in writing, share it with everyone, and it's called the IBM Principles for Trust and Transparency. And simply put, the first one says, the purpose of AI and these new technologies is to augment what man does. The second principle is data and its insights in the AI engines that get built, they belong to the owner, the creator of that data. That's a very fundamental point. And then the third is things like AI, they need to be transparent and explainable. You can't have a black box. You need to know what data, who trained it. I mean, if you really believe these things will impact important decisions, things about school, how your kids are educated, medical decisions you make, how you do underwriting, you will never do that if it's a black box and you're not sure where the data and who trained it. Because you can train these systems to not be good or good. You can train them for bias or no bias. And so those were really important when you say trust. Those were three really important tenets I took on. And then under that, we talked about, look, this is all great to help people do a better job. Everyone can do a better job with these technologies, but we do have to reinvent skills in education. And you guys have had many stories and discussions on this. We have been committed to this not only for decades. We've been running this new public-private partnership education called Pathway to Technologies. Think of it as a high school, a 6-year high school, public schools with public community colleges. We're up to a pipeline of almost 100,000 kids. That means you don't need a university degree to participate in this new economy. And it's so critical. Otherwise, we're going to create a world of have and have-nots.
Obviously, some big issues you're tackling there. People get concerned about AI, that it means that they will be losing jobs. You made the point that you're going to be creating 1,800 jobs in France. And I just wonder if you can give us a little bit of insight into what your job plans are for the United States.
Well, the job plans, you might remember back a little bit of time ago, really associated with this new collar premise that we had said we'd be hiring 24,000 jobs over the next couple of years, and we are right on track for that. And here in France as well, that was 1,800, as you just said, and it's around a center of excellence for AI and for cloud, Internet of Things, and it is really being driven by the demand here. The clients that have implemented AI here, you will find great examples in real production. Credit Mutuel, Orange Bank, LVMH, Louis Vuitton, SNCF, their big railway. It's quite a long list, and they're one of the most aggressive countries in the world about it. And this is really underpins really what President Macron, I mean, from my very first time I met him, he has been focused on how these technologies could be a cause for good, and that was what was behind the summit he held yesterday called Tech for Good. And it had 3 work streams. I led the one for him on education. There was one on jobs of the future, and then one on inclusiveness and diversity.
That's great. Ginni, can we talk about IBM and how things have been going with the company? You came out with earnings recently that were better than expected, and the revenue line had turned around, which is something Wall Street had been waiting for quite a while. Still, the stock sold off after the earnings report, and some people are saying it's because investors have lost patience in terms of waiting for a turnaround. Can you address that and just say what you think the stock reaction was and where you stand with investors right now?
Yeah. Look, as we've talked about, I think that we have done, and the team has done more than anything, a great job repositioning the company. And in fact, what you find now is a different company than several years ago. And whether that's look at the portfolio, now top 3 cloud, 18 billion. Take a look at our new strategic initiatives, almost 50% of the company growing 12%. Look at AI platform for business, quantum computing. But as well then, what we've done is return to growth, Becky, is what you just said, having fourth quarter return to growth and on. And the next part of that puzzle is continuing to improve value. Remember, we are a high value company, which has always meant low single digit revenue growth, but then continue to move and improve your margins. So as we ended last year at 47.4% of gross profit margins, this is now about the next step is continuing, and as I've talked about, show the margin improvement, which I was actually, as many of our owners have told us, pleased to see the broad-based improvement quarter to quarter that you saw on margins. And that's what now will continue. Right. So I think step by step is what we're doing here.
Hey, Ginni, it's Andrew here. Quick question about blockchain. It's a conversation and topic we've talked a lot about, and you've had a lot of early success with the blockchain, doing it oftentimes in the private cloud on behalf of clients. And it's a high margin business. And yet what I wanted to ask you about was in the past month or two now, Amazon has introduced its own blockchain template for the public cloud, trying to build it into the stack. And I just wonder whether the blockchain, which seemed like it could be a great high margin business, is going to ultimately get commoditized, and what that means to IBM.
Yeah, well, first, let me just clarify one point. Our blockchain runs on our public cloud. So it is accessible to everyone. In fact, you can reach over to it from Amazon as well. So it is out there. And the most important part about blockchain, the underlying fabric, Andrew, which is what you're talking about, it's basically open source. So it's free for everyone. And then people build applications on top of it. And so we build some, our partners are building some. You know, we have the big network on transportation around the world. There's now 200 companies queued up. Food safety, 100 onboarding here. We're into millions of transactions already. So the value in this is more around than the applications you build on top of it, and then as well helping customers build those applications and put those networks in. The fabric is already open source and actually always has been from the beginning.
Hey, Ginni, one more question. Just going back to what we last heard from the company. After your last earnings report, the CFO from IBM made some comments to the street, just saying things like, don't count on the continued boost that we've seen from over the last couple of quarters from new mainframe sales, that is something that you're not anticipating in the second half of the year. That was about a month ago when we heard that. Can you give us an update on what you're seeing in those mainframe sales at this point?
Well, look, I don't remember Jim saying something like that. I think the comments about our mainframe, as you know, when a new cycle comes out or a new product, a new version comes out, this is the 14th, they go through cycles. They boost over several quarters, and then clients do a different kind of upgrade after that. And so we have seen in early quarters, you always see some of the largest gains around that. But we continue to see really strong interest in that mainframe. And Becky, I always remind everyone, it's a very important part of what we do. Our hardware business is 9% of IBM. There's 91% of other things we do too. Right. It is a very important part. It runs, I was with clients till midnight last night telling me about how much and how meaningful it is that it runs the banks and the telecommunication companies of the world. And we're talking about things like encryption and security, which is what it does. So that is in and continues to be really important to that client set. And that's really what we exist for, to run the mission critical work on it.
Hey, Ginni, we're still debating in this country whether the tax reform is inducing big companies to spend more capital, or whether we're just seeing buybacks or other uses of the cash. Since the law passed, have you changed any decisions about capital deployment based on the tax law and the change for IBM, how it affects your company?
Well, I think, Joe, you and I might have talked. For us, it's a headwind in the first year here, but we are strong supporters of it still, because in the long run, a competitive international tax system is what you have to have, and therefore you can make the right decision at the right moment. And so while for us it hasn't changed, I think as I look and talk to so many of our clients, what does matter is how they feel about the whole economic environment, of which tax reform is a part, how they feel about trade, how they feel about what demand is. And really, as you would guess, they take all of those into consideration when they make those decisions. And so whether you're positive about the future, and I do see clients undertaking what I would call, fairly big strategic projects that they had not taken for a while.
Ginni, I want to thank you for your time today. We realize you've got a very, very busy day there, and we do appreciate your taking time to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time as well. Thank you all.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.